Into the Woods is such a brilliant example of a musical that I would personally argue that after the first song, you don't need any actors on the stage. Just by the music itself, you should be able to tell which characters are on stage, what they're feeling, along with their wishes and motives, just through the music. The opening 12 to 15 minutes of the show, which is just the opening number, brilliantly sets up each character's themes and motifs. Because this show, it's a lot. There are 4 or 5 different stories going on all at the same time, and the only way to really keep track of it is through the orchestrations. I'm here to show you that Sondheim connected his entire show together using just 2 notes. A few quick things before we break open this brilliant score. Firstly, spoilers. I mean, the show's been out since the 80s, but hopefully you've seen it by now. You've had plenty of time if not. Next, will there be talk of music theory? Yes, but I will try to explain it as best as I can, as simply as I can. Will some of these analyses be a bit of a stretch? More than likely. I mean, a lot of it's written out in the music explicitly or able to be easily interpreted, but some of them is just a bit of a far reach by me, but that's okay. Also, these are not all my own findings. YouTubers Howard Ho and Sideways have done breakdowns of certain aspects of the show, including steps and beans respectively. There's also a podcast where I listen to a bit which breaks down each of Sondheim's songs from each of his shows. I'll link everything in the description below. Check them out. All brilliant creators in their own right. But here we go. After working together on 1984's Sunday in the Park with George, Into the Woods, with music and lyrics by Stephen Sondheim and a book by James Lapine, premiered in San Diego in 1986 before premiering at the Martin Beck Theatre, now the Al Hirschfeld, on the 5th of November 1987, closing after 765 performances on September 3rd, 1989. At the 42nd Tony Awards in 1988, the show was nominated for 10 different categories, winning Best Book, Best Leading Actress for Joanna Gleason, and Best Score. With The Baker's Wife being nominated and winning Best Female Lead, you'd assume that the Baker himself was nominated for Best Actor. But no. Wolfman. Of the 7 Tonys that it missed out on, 6 of them went to some indie show that's since closed down, Phantom of the something. The 7th award for choreography went to a revival of Anything Goes, starring Patti LuPone. With such an all-star cast in the original production, it seems hard to top. However, many revivals and touring productions have had many a celebrity take on these powerful roles, including Skylar Aston and Brian Darcy James as the Baker, Amy Adams, Sutton Foster and Imelda Staunton as the Baker's wife, with Geraldine Turner in the Australian production in '93, Laura Benanti, Jessie Mueller and Philippa Sue as Cinderella, Christopher Seiber and the late great Gavin Creel as a combination of princes and wolves, and the Giant being voiced by the likes of Judi Dench, Glenn Close and Whoopi Goldberg. And that's not including understudies or covers, including Anne Harada as Jack's mother and Krista Rodriguez as Cinderella. The 2012 revival saw Chip Zien playing the mysterious man. Chip, for those of you who don't know, was the original Baker. Furthermore, the show has had a movie adaptation starring Meryl Streep, James Corden, Emily Blunt and Anna Kendrick. The film did quite well at the box office, making back almost $215 million in the first year on a $50 million budget. Fans of the stage show, however, were not as impressed. I mean, it's a good movie, but it's not very faithful to the comedy and lightness of the original material. Take these 2 scenes, for example.
How could she do this to you?
Rapunzel.
What?
I can see you.
As he approached, Rapunzel, overjoyed at seeing him, fell into his arms weeping. 2 of her tears wetted his eyes, and their touch restored his vision.
What I was very annoyed to find out, however, was that this was not the first pitch for a film version of Into the Woods. There was talks of putting this stage show on the big screen in the 90s. Reading from Steven Silverman's book about Sondheim's shows, rumblings of a movie version of Into the Woods started reverberating in the 90s, with various names bandied about for various roles. Robin Williams as the baker, Goldie Hawn his wife, Cher the witch, Steve Martin as the wolf, Danny DeVito as the giant. Oh, what could have been. Once upon a time, a well-known trope, a tried, tested, true way to begin a story. The audience knows what to expect. Love and lessons learned, and a happily ever after at the end. They drop their guard, settling in for a fun night of storytelling. But then, bang, crash, the orchestra smash, and...
Well, that's another story, never mind. Anyway...
There's an instant surprise, a fortissimo hit on the instruments, waking everyone up, essentially, keeping them on their toes.
Once upon a time... And just at that point, the entire audience, I hope, will be startled into having to listen to what you're saying. So they will also know instinctively that the evening is going to be full of surprises. That every time they think that they are going to be ahead of you, meaning the storytellers, you are in fact going to pull something on them. You're going to change a tempo. You're going to make a noise.
Over the next 12 minutes, we cross-cut to 4 different locations, meeting a variety of characters. 11 people, 1 Milky White, and 1 outside narrator. 13 total characters. An unlucky number. I'm sure nothing bad will happen.
Blinded them.
In order to keep track of who's who, especially as some characters have major costume changes and transformations, they are assigned different motifs. In my personal research, I found, I think, 8 different motifs throughout the show, though I don't believe I've found every instance of these motifs. The most important of these, and quite possibly the simplest, is the bean theme. Made up of these 5 notes, this small motif appears in no less than 25 pieces in the show. It also has the most meanings, but we'll come back to that later on. Next up, probably the next most recognisable theme, Cinderella's theme. Or Cinderella's main theme, there's another one. It's also known as the festival theme. It sounds like this. You've also got Jack's theme, which isn't really for him, more it's about him. Next to Jack, you've got Milky White and the cow theme. Not to be confused with the quest or the list theme. And you've also got Little Red's theme, which is essentially the woods in a way. I'll be honest, that's the least important theme. And finally, Cinderella's second theme, aka the birds, aka Cinderella's mother's theme. Coming back to the bean theme for a moment, not only is this motif associated with the beans themselves, but also the consequences of those beans. This theme appears on occasion when talking about the giant, as it's the beanstalk that is the bridge between us and the giants. When talking about the witch, as they were originally her beans, and talking about Rapunzel, as she was the compensation for the baker's father stealing the beans in the first place.
Second place.
Yes! How?
There's one more overarching idea to the show as well, the idea of steps. I'm not going to go into too much detail about it, because fellow YouTuber Howard Ho did a brilliant breakdown of it, but steps play a massive role in the show. Each main character, along with the show itself, have steps built into its very foundation. Cinderella with the steps of the palace, Jack stepping up and being a man, Little Red stepping up and being Jack's mother at the end, yeah. And the witch and the Baker family with the steps to getting a child or becoming beautiful again. These physical or metaphysical steps are complemented by the steps in the orchestration and the music, and it's there a lot. Trust me, it comes up a lot. Again, Howard Ho covers this in a lot more detail than I will, along with the pitch versus pitch analogy. Definitely check out that video. It is linked below. It's a great addition. I think I've got all the housekeeping out of the way. Let's finally dive into the world of Woods and break apart the wonderful music that Sondheim has created. How do you keep a 12-minute song both interesting and interconnected? They need the audience to learn as much as they can about the characters, but without becoming bored. How is this achieved? By using the notion of cross-cutting. By jumping from one location to another, to another, to another, like films or TV, you keep that audience interest. But then, how do you keep the songs connected? Well, by using the same type of beat. A short staccato crotchet pulse. Okay, sometimes it's in 3/4, 4/4, 6/8, what have you, but it's there pretty much throughout the whole song. A song that is divided into 9 different parts. For the first lot of bars, the instruments just move between a C major 7 and a B minor 7. A lot of the first chord, a little of the second, and going back to the first. These chords are very close to each other on the piano. In fact, each note is just one step away. We're here, resting in this place, then we step away to a new place, but because of the steps, we change. That sounds awfully similar to a lot of the show. At bar 16, Cinderella sings,
The king is giving a festival.
and that is where we are first introduced to the Cinderella theme, aka the festival theme, though in a different key to how we'll hear it more often. Unlike Cinderella, there are some characters who don't have a wish. I mean, along with the narrator, because he's outside of the story, Cinderella's family don't have any major wish, so they don't sing. They may speak in rhythm, but they don't have melodic lines, because they don't wish for anything. Okay, well, the only thing the stepsisters really wish for is that Cinderella to be 1, miserable, but 2, to have her tend to their every need. Which is why they then start singing when they make fun of her or ask her to help them get ready. It sets up a very interesting dynamic in the show. The princes have no real wish until they come across these maidens. The mysterious man has no wish until he wishes his son not to run away like he did. The steward has, well, no wish at all, so he never sings. A bit later on, when we meet Little Red, we get her theme. When Cinderella sings to the birds, we get that theme, which is also kind of extending into Cinderella's mother's theme, the tree. I've just kind of lumped those two together, just to make it easier. We then get introduced to Milky White's theme. Yes, even he has a theme.
It's a she. How many times must I tell you?
Sorry. Her theme is based around the Bugs on Her Dugs section, Dugs of course being the udders. This theme is probably used the least of all the themes, I'll be honest. I don't believe it's ever sung again, but it's heard in the instrumental a few times later on. This then takes us to the second part of it. That's just the first part. Part 2 is when we cut back to Little Red giving us the Woods theme, a very non-eventful section, as it ends when she does. We then cut back to Cinderella. The clarinets in this section move in steps, while Cinderella sings a melody that sort of ebbs and flows, getting higher and higher, like birds flapping their wings ready to take off. This entire section is the birds/mother theme. It comes back a few times throughout the show, but each time is slightly varied or changed. Something character development, I don't know. Again, we have the stepsisters singing at length, because their wish is to be served by Cinderella, for her to be their slave. Section 4 introduces us to the witch. Underneath the narrator, the flute sings the I Wish section from the very start, reminding the audience this show is primarily about their wish. Just as the crux of the story is being introduced, so too is the crux of the orchestration. While the witch is telling the couple about the spell, the string section introduces the bean theme. After her first rap, the strings again provide us with this theme, really locking it in place, cementing it putting it front and center. It also appears during her second rap, saying, "This theme is here. Look at it. Listen to it. This is the show." As we cut back to Jack and his mother, part 5 begins by reintroducing the cow theme. What's interesting to note, besides the fact that it's never sung again, is that this is one of only 2 themes in the show where the subject of the theme never sings their own theme. The other? Jack. Jack never sings his own theme. I'll talk more about why later on, but essentially Jack isn't smart enough to sing his own theme. He's not smart enough to do much, so he doesn't have much to sing until a lot later on in the show. In fact, his whole character arc can be boiled down to just 3 songs. But again, I'll talk about that when that becomes relevant. Either way, after Milky White's theme, we do get Jack's theme, sung by his mother.
Jack, 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 hid in a sack.
That then moves us into the woods theme because she's singing about going into the woods. Part 6 is next. Yeah, we're still in the same opening song. We cut back to the witch telling the Baker family about the curse. We come to one of my favourite instruments of all time, the Celeste. Just briefly, the Celeste or Celesta, piano-like instrument that you probably know from the Harry Potter theme, that famous sound that you come to know. The Celeste, well, it's a keyboard with a Celeste sound in this case, is underneath the witch's dialogue and plays a few notes that should be very familiar by now.
You wish to have the curse reversed? I'll need a certain potion first. Go to the ward and bring me back.
We're talking about the curse, aren't we? We're talking about the beans. It has to be the bean theme. It comes back at the end of this section as well, just to really nail it home. Then part 7 comes along. Before we even see which character we're going to, we hear this. We don't need the dialogue to figure out who's coming. This character wants to go to the festival. The festival, we have to be going to Cinderella. And sure enough, we are. We then hear the theme sung back at Cinderella by her stepmother, musically mocking her.
Those should make us the fools of the festival and mortify the prince.
At the start of part 8, the flute plays the I Wish section from before, but not all of it. It just plays a few fragments to remind us of how much they wish. We then hear the first rendition of the Quest theme. It doesn't show up a lot in the show, but it's another theme that appears in the show enough to talk about. It, just like every other theme, is shorthand for, hey, remember this plot point or character or motivation? Yeah, that's important right now. Pay attention. Also, at the end of each line, the last note moves up once each time. Milk is on a G flat, blood on an A flat, corn B flat, gold is a D flat. Each time they are going up by a step. Or 2. Underneath the narrator telling us who we're going back to next, which is Cinderella, a muted trumpet plays the festival theme, really locking that in there. As the Baker and Cinderella sing over top of each other, which in itself could be a reference to the fact that they are the 2 leads, not so much the Baker's wife. We move to the 9th and final section of the opening song. Not much to talk about in this part, to be honest. The Woods theme obviously starts it off, and The Way Is Clear comes back from Little Red earlier, which is again built on steps, but that's about it. This section is basically the bow to wrap it up, to finish it all off, have the most actors on stage at the same time together, singing in unison, bringing the opening number to a big conclusion. This one song does so much for the show. It introduces characters, ambitions, wishes, musical motifs, relationships, backstories, conflicts. It's amazing. Well, I mean, as is the rest of the show, but this first song. At the end of the piece, there is an audience segue into the next song, Cinderella at the Grave. The first half of this song is basically expanding on Cinderella's themes. You got the same eeriness and the motifs as the bird or the mother theme. When she starts to sing, we get the same structure as what the stepsisters sing when they want her to get them ready for the festival.
I've been good and I've been kind, mother, doing only what I learned from you. Here I found a little tear, Cinderella, can't you hide it with a hat? What is wrong with me, mother? Something must be wrong. I wish.
If it appeared more often in the show, I'd probably label it the demanding theme, but it doesn't really show up much past this. But that's all she knows. Demand, demand, demand. While actively hating her situation, she's turning into her stepsisters.
Until now you have become the very thing you swore to destroy.
When Cinderella eventually gets her wish and her gown, what do you think the orchestra plays? We then move to Jack and Milky White in the woods. Surprisingly, we don't get either of their themes played here. Because, remember what I said, these are the only two characters not to have active themes, or themes that they themselves are singing. One, because Milky White only has one real line. And two, because Jack, like I said before, is too stupid at the moment to actually sing his theme. Or to sing at all, really. So yeah, no theme for them here. There's a bit of dialogue between him and the mysterious man before we cut over to Little Red and the wolf. Starting this scene, we hear the woods theme, which was introduced to us by Little Red, which serves as an audible introduction before a visual one. She's on a journey through the woods. However, this journey, much like the associated theme, is constantly interrupted by the wolf. As fun as the song is, or as creepy, depending on how you want to look at it, that it really holds no weight on the show musically. There's no real motifs in here that come back later. For the most part, it's just a standalone song, so we'll move that out the way. We then have After Hello Little Girl, in which the witch interrupts the baker by yelling at him about getting Little Red's cape. And underneath that exchange, what do we get? The bean theme, of course, because the cape is one of the things to undo the curse. I think that when the witch is the focus of the items, i.e. she's telling the baker to get it, or when it's about the actual beans themselves, it's the bean theme. But when it's the baker or the baker's wife talking about the items, it's usually the quest theme. I think that's how it goes. Just something to note. I'm pretty sure that's right. But still, if that's the case, why do we then have Rapunzel singing the bean theme as her leitmotif? This is our first introduction of her. We don't even see her yet, but the bean theme is here, extended. It's not just the 5 notes, it's now become a full-on melody. Why is she singing it? Well, because her situation literally is an extension of the beans. Why is she in the tower? Because the witch put her there. Why does she think the witch is her mother? Because her real father gave her to the witch as compensation for the beans. She sings the bean theme because she's connected to the beans. The instrumental then moves over from the bean theme to the quest theme, a slight shift due to the witch leaving the stage while the baker's wife enters. The witch is no longer involved in the scene, so neither is the bean theme. These 5 notes aren't gone for long though. In fact, this is probably the most blatant appearance of them in the show. No background instrumentation, no hiding it in a melody or flipping it. Front and center, the bean theme comes back. In the intro to I Guess This Is Goodbye, the viola picks up where the xylophone left off, playing that theme one more time towards Milky White. This song is the second song in Jack's 3-song journey. We had the opening song where he is too sheltered or too stupid to sing at all, but now at the loss of his only friend, he matures a bit, taking on a whole song by himself. However, this is the only song in the show that does not rhyme. See, while he's smart enough now to say what he's feeling, he's still foolish. It's a short song, sure, but it is a full song that has no rhyme scheme. None of these lines rhyme in the slightest. He then leaves the stage prematurely, not really finishing his song, because there is more to that story. The end of that song neatly flows into Maybe They're Magic. Not much to say about this one, just the horns playing the bean theme, and a few other instruments playing the bean theme. We then finally meet Rapunzel in the tower, with a few bean themes just sprinkled around the score for good measure. Because Rapunzel, beans, stealing, whole triangle there. All the while, Little Red has been enjoying a little rest off stage, but it's now her time to shine once again. We get the Woods theme, which is also her theme, to remind us of who she is and what she wants / what she's doing. The baker sings a little reprise of the song just before, and then we get Little Red at grandmother's house. Now, whether you've seen the show or not, you know the story of Little Red Riding Hood. So we know what to expect, or rather we know who to expect in the bed. But just to really solidify the point, we get the same sort of chords and timbre as the opening to Hello Little Girl.
How uneasy I feel. Perhaps it's all the sweets.
We've got those close, tight-knit harmonies in the horns and the woodwinds, making it feel all eerie. A big tonal shift comes when we get I Know Things Now. Doesn't have much in the way of hidden motifs, but I do like that the bridge moves to a variety of different keys and home chords, as the line everything familiar seemed to disappear forever. But as she sings, and we're back at the start, it modulates back to the key of C, back to the home key. Song 19, entitled Jack's Mother, is just transition music. It's a reprise of the song just gone, along with the sound as well. The next piece, number 20, is also transition music. But for whom? Have a listen. Where have we heard that theme before? The festival. It must be Cinderella. And sure enough, it is. And that there proves my point. You don't need to see the actors on stage to know who's coming out or who's the purpose of this scene. Just by the sound alone, we know this scene involves Cinderella and the festival in some regard. We then hear her theme just moments later when her prince is seen coming from the same festival, hence the festival theme. How do we know it's Cinderella's prince? Because of the theme. And then a third time it comes back again when he's leaving the stage to find that woman from the festival. Song 20 merges with 21, A Very Nice Prince. Nothing to note really in this song. It's nice, it sets up the reprises later on, but there's no hidden meanings or anything. Well, none that I found at least. Similarly, just like the first Midnight, where there's not much to talk about, we get the same bounce as the Woods theme, establishing a location. I guess that is the connection there. We also have Rapunzel singing the Bean theme, which is her only dialogue up until this point. It's the only reason she is the way she is, the only thing she knows. She's trapped by the witch, and that's the only way she can communicate. Another flow-on song, and the third in Jack's character arc, Giants in the Sky, takes place when Jack has returned to the ground from being up with the giants in the sky. He recounts all he has seen, having matured in the process. He's able to rhyme now. He's able to sing complete phrases and sentences. He can sing for an extended period of time, not just a few lines. And again, it rhymes.
When you're way up high and you're on your own in a world like none that you've ever known, where the sky is lead and the earth is stone, you're free to do whatever pleases you.
This song really finishes the developmental character arc for Jack. When the song properly begins at bar 6, the bass plays this repeated two-note galumph between A flat and E flat. It does that for the first handful of bars, only moving to a different note when he sings A World Like None You've Ever Known, which I think is nice. The strings also play the Bean theme, again because the beans are the reason he got up in the first place.
Second place.
Yes! How?
Other than that, it is just a standalone song. Although, I do have a slight grievance with this song. There's a lot of pushing and pulling with the melody, accenting the offbeat and tying across bars, which is fine, sure. But if I ever had the opportunity to rewrite this song, that section could sound so cool if it just locked in to 7/8, really leaning into that offbeat feel. I mean, I do record music, I do arrange music. Please enjoy my rendition of how I believe Giants in the Sky should have been written in 7/8. A big, tall, terrible giant at the door. A big, tall, terrible lady giant sweeping the floor. And she out till the sky. Anyway, back to the show. The fanfares at 24 start with a few orchestral sound effects like this one and this one. It also, true to its namesake, holds two fanfares. Cinderella's theme, normal, and then slowed down. A nice bit of storytelling here. Here comes Cinderella's prince, so we get the theme, but his search is about to be slowed by a run-in with the other prince. As his wish slows, so too does the music. Agony, which is a brilliant song, doesn't hold much weight. There's a lot of stepwise movement, I guess, and the Bean theme is sung when they mirror or mock Rapunzel singing. But that's about it. I mean, there's a little interlude with piece 26. Jack's mother is the focus of that scene, so the flute plays Jack's theme.
Have you encountered a boy with carrot-top hair and a sunny, though occasionally vague, disposition?
It then plays a slowed version of the woods theme when we shift to somewhere else in the woods. And the clarinet plays the Bean theme because the baker's wife is about to find Rapunzel in the tower. While there's no singing in this section, this piece really helps to solidify the many motifs once again. Speaking of, this is the very next scene. Which character is about to appear on stage? We then come to, honestly, one of my favourite songs in the show, It Takes Two. There are no motifs in this song, no returning themes. There's nice little musical equivalents on the flute and clarinets playing in response as a pair, musically taking two as well as dramatically. There's also a weird bit of agony in the middle of the song for some reason. Not entirely sure why, it could be a foreshadowing to the second act, who knows. A lot of the show happens with not much musical interest after this point. It's not until the witch sings Stay With Me when the Bean theme comes back in full force. It's a very powerful song and is really the negative side of the pinnacle of the beans. Both characters are connected quite strongly to these beans, the situation occurring because of said beans. There's just beans everywhere. We'll probably just cut that. I'm not a fan of that. The next time we hear the Bean theme isn't during the next underscore and isn't during the best song in the show, On the Steps of the Palace. That song is very interesting regarding its use of pitch and steps, but I'll link Howard Ho's video below because that explains it a lot better. I wouldn't want to tread on his toes. But back to the beans. After that song, we get the Bean theme again, but in regards to Jack. He's just come back from the second time up the beanstalk, bringing back a harp from the giants. How did he get up there? The beans. We then get Milky White's theme when he's the center of attention. When she's the center of attention, as she is eating the ingredients for the potion. At the mention of the Maiden in the Tower, we get a rapidly accelerating Bean theme thrown in for good measure before returning back to Milky White's theme when she is eating the corn, eventually layering on the quest theme just for good measure. The Act 1 finale is broken into 4 sections, a nice change from the intro. So let's quickly rattle off everything in this massive piece. A reprise of the opening number coming full circle. The scene moves to Cinderella's prince looking for her after the festival, so we get the festival theme. The Step family now have something else to wish for. They wish for one of them to marry royalty. And when they have a wish, they sing. So we get a reprise of their section from the opening number as well, along with Cinderella's mother singing a variant on her theme when the horse drives by.
It'll have to go, but when you're his bride, you can sit or ride. You'll look at the blot within the shoe.
All of that is repeated in part 2, but with the addition of Rapunzel singing her theme. I think in a minor key? I mean, it's a sad situation. I think it's minor, actually. I love that. Even when she's engaging in conversation with the witch, she still has no lines. She is the consequence of the beans, And that's all she'll ever know. For now, at least. Part 3 cuts to Cinderella's wedding, so we get her festival theme again. In a cruel twist of fate, we also get the step family's laughter played back in the strings when the birds poke their eyes out.
Pigeons swooped down upon them, poked out their eyes, and blinded.
When Cinderella sings I Didn't Think I'd Wed a Prince, she sings the Bean theme, but backwards, with a few notes added in. But she sings the opposite of the beans, cancelling them out. The beans are done. No more beans. The last part of the finale makes reference to the opening number and finishes with the Woods theme, neatly tying everything up again in a bow. Because that's the end of the story. Happily ever after.
But not for long.
Okay, maybe not. But there is a lot in that first act. The Bean theme is in almost every scene in some regard, and the show guides the audience on characters' motivations, wishes, and just who's entering and exiting from the orchestration alone. Now, I do understand that me sitting here rambling about themes can be quite boring, I'll be honest, and the video is pretty long as it is already by intermission. So to speed things up, I'm just going to quickly go song by song, bringing up any reprisals of themes and stopping really to analyze if it's incredibly interesting. Are we ready? I'm going to speed up my thing. What do you call this? That thing. I'm going to speed that up. And we are going to go. Here we go. Before I do though, just a reminder, please subscribe. If you haven't yet, it helps me out a bunch. And it is free. So you've got nothing to lose. Right. Here comes Act 2. Act 2 mirrors Act 1's opening pretty much to a T for the first bit. 9 sections broken up. I do like that Jack sings I Miss as well as I Wish. Jack asks the harp to play and it plays the Bean theme, as the beans are the reason he has the harp at all. When the baker's house gets trampled by the giant and the witch's garden gets trodden, the bassoon plays the Bean theme. I'll let you guess why. Jack still isn't the brightest, so part 4 begins with Jack's theme, switching to Cinderella's when the scene moves. The scene moves back to Jack, so we go back to the Jack theme. His mother still doesn't trust him, so the theme returns. The first time Little Red appears, we get the Woods theme, which is also her theme, remember? Though the bassoon and clarinet sing her vocal part from the Act 1 opening. The birds then get the bird theme when they fly down. We then have the main Into the Woods chorus at the end, with a sustained cello, making it feel darker and more eerie. Rapunzel has now matured, and she now has actual dialogue. Similarly to Act 1, we get Cinderella's fanfare when her prince enters, but it slows when the other prince arrives, slowing their respective plans. The reprise of Agony is the exact same as in the first act, just with different lyrics, including the best lyric in the entire show.
If it were not for the thicket, a thicket's no trick. Is it thick? It's the thickest, the quickest is pick it apart with a stick. Yes, but...
After the reprise, the flute plays a rendition of Maybe They're Magic from the first act. The witch sings about Rapunzel, so the song starts with the Bean theme. In Any Moment Part 1, the flute does a lot in this show. The flute plays an inverse of the Bean theme, where instead of going note, down, up, down, it goes note, up, down, up, up. This is the complete opposite of what she'd wanted before. Everything has flipped on its head in this moment, even the theme of the show. Your Fault, the second best song in the show, is built on steps and has a similar melody to Moments in the Woods. Coincidence?
I think not!
This time, I actually think yes. The Bean theme shows up a bit in this song too, mainly in the very rushed melody, but highlighted also with the violin. Last Midnight is also built around steps. When Cinderella is given the baker's baby, the flute, again, plays a little melody, same as this part in Your Fault.
It's your father's fault that the curse got placed and the place got cursed in the first place.
Cinderella is then forced to mature a lot very quickly. She's been given care of this baby, broken things off with her prince, and then goes to comfort Little Red. This is a sad time, and she's the center of the scene. So one part of the orchestra, I'll give you one guess. Yes, it is the flute. Plays her festival theme over the morning underscore.
Oh, I'm so
During No One Is Alone, that damn flute plays that damn Bean theme. The key emotional moment of the show highlighted with the core of the show. There's also steps in there too. In the second part of this song, the characters finally realize that it's not one single person's fault that they're in this mess, and they sing "People make mistakes." Not "you have made mistakes," not they, but people. That melody is an inverse of the Bean theme. It's the opposite to the rest of the show. They are no longer putting the blame outwards. They're finally taking accountability themselves. And in that moment, the rest of the show is flipped. The birds come down and peck out the giant's eyes, along with the bird theme at the same time. We then get a reprisal of the first two midnights. Rapunzel comes out with her bean theme because she's all that remains of the beans, or the consequences of the beans at this point. Throughout the finale, there are callbacks to No One Is Alone and The Witch's Lament, while finishing with a reprisal of the Act 1 finale, which in itself was a reprisal of the opening of the show, for the third time putting a nice bow on the entire show, musically coming full circle, while the contrary is shown on stage. Wishes have been granted, consequences dealt with, and all trace of the beans, excluding the baker's child and Rapunzel, are all but a memory. Into the Woods is one of my favourite shows of all time. The ingenuity of the dialogue, the music, the underscoring, having all of it fit together so perfectly is amazing. And I stand by what I said at the start. After the first song, you don't need to see the actors to know what's going on. This show is the perfect entrance point into the world of Sondheim and the complexity that musicals can have. Don't get me wrong, it's nice to have simple shows. Annie is a basic show that works great. Mean Girls, while cringy, is a great gateway into the world of musicals. Moulin Rouge is... Aladdin is a great family-friendly show as well. But then you step it up to Hamilton, Urinetown, Into the Woods, where there's a lot going on under the surface if you're willing to find it. But you don't need to in order to appreciate the show as a whole. But there is a third step. Merrily We Roll Along, Sweeney Todd, both by Sondheim, and shows like Next to Normal, all use the music to tell the story. And there's an additional level of understanding to be found when you find the contrast between what the actors are saying and the story that the orchestration is telling. If you'd like me to cover any of those shows in the future, please let me know. Also let me know if I've missed any major things in this video. This is a very dense show, so I almost certainly forgot to mention something big. If you did like this, make sure you like it and share it with other people. Realistically, if you are watching this, then you're a musical theatre person, and it is scientifically proven that every musical theatre person has either A, been in a production of Into the Woods, or B, knows someone who has. So yeah, share it with yourself if you've been in it, share it with your cast, share it with your friends. This isn't the first long-form video I've made about Broadway either. Do you want to know where Into the Woods fits in the entire timeline of Broadway? Well, check out my History of Musical Theatre video over here, where I talk about everything from the ancient Greeks through to the modern day. Hopefully you'll enjoy it, because, well, it's my video, so hopefully you will love it. I think so. Okay, let's just record the intro now.